Worst freak accidents, part 1. The time a girl jumped with no cord. That girl was 25-year-old Yesenia Morales. She was 25 years old, and she was a lawyer from Colombia. In July of 2021, her and her boyfriend would decide to go bungee jumping at the Amaga Bridge. This was Yesenia's first time bungee jumping, and they were about 90th in line, and once it got closer to their turn, they got their harnesses put on them, but that's all. Shortly after, they attach the cord to the boyfriend, but only the boyfriend, and they give the cue for him to jump, but Yesenia misreads that sign and she jumps herself with no cord attached. Her boyfriend had also jumped, but he had the cord attached, so she just free fell for 160 foot before hitting the ground, but it's said that she passed during the fall due to a heart attack. Worst freak accidents, part 2. The man who got crushed by a seat at the movie theater. So this is the story of 24-year-old father of one, Atiq Rafiq, who on March 9th went to the movie theater with his wife. Sometime during the movie, Atiq would notice that his keys have slipped under the seat, and so he would crawl down and get underneath the footrest because there were reclining seats in this theater and check. And that's when the footrest started to close on its own. No buttons were pushed or nothing, and it clamped down on his neck. So there were 3/4 of a ton's worth of pressure on his neck, just clamped. His wife, as well as other movie seers, rushed to the seat to try and help lift the footrest, but it was to no avail. After around 10 to 15 minutes, the workers finally managed to loosen the bolts and free the seat, as well as Atiq. But after all this trauma, Atiq had suffered a heart attack, and he survived for about a week, but then passed. It was soon revealed that this was all due to a wiring issue. Worst freak accidents, part 3. The man who was driving along when a hay bale came and crushed him. That man was Mike Edwards, an English cellist and music teacher who had performed with the Electric Light Orchestra. In September of 2010, when Mike was 62, he was driving on the A381 when all this went down. As he's driving, this 1,000-pound bale of hay comes rolling and smashes over his van, crushing him instantly. Prosecutors looked into the man whose hay bale it was, claiming that he didn't take notable safety measures, but he was soon found not guilty. Worst freak accidents, part 4. The chick who was unalived by a can of whipped cream. Pictured here is 33-year-old Instagram blogger Rebecca Berger, who had gained a large following from posting on fashion, food, and fitness. Sadly, her life would be cut short when her whipped cream dispenser exploded and hit her in the chest. After her passing, her family posted this on Instagram, which is an example of the whipped cream dispenser that took her life. This incident had happened in 2017, but the whipped cream dispenser was recalled in 2013. Worst freak accidents, part 5. The girl who got sucked into a pool drain. Pictured here is 6-year-old Abigail Taylor from Minneapolis, and in 2007, she was swimming in a public pool when all this happened. While swimming, she unknowingly sat on the pool drain, which was not equipped with the right safety features. This drain was doing what you'd expect, sucking water through it, and yeah, she got caught in it, and it pretty much sucked her intestines out. Other internal injuries were present, but she did survive, but it was only for 9 months. Soon after, the family reached an $8 million settlement. Worst freak accidents, part 6. The flying fire hydrant. So, on June 21st of 2007, Humberto Hernandez, who was 24 years old, was walking down the sidewalk with his wife. While they're walking, a car crashes into a fire hydrant and sends it flying into the air. The 200-plus pound fire hydrant comes crashing down and hits Humberto in the back of the head. Humberto immediately collapsed and his life was gone. The fire hydrant also went crashing 20 feet away. His wife was unharmed, well, physically at least. Worst freak accident, part 7. The time a cow crushed someone after falling through the roof. So, pictured here is João Maria de Souza, and in July of 2013, he was sleeping next to his wife when all this happened. So, this cow escaped from a nearby neighbor's house, and it wandered over onto this man's property. Mr. D'Souza's house pretty much stuck straight out from a hill, so anything could walk right up onto the roof, and that's what this cow did. So as soon as the 3,000-pound cow stepped onto the roof, it came crashing down onto Mr. D'Souza as he slept next to his wife. His wife and the cow were both fine. D'Souza was rushed to the hospital with a broken leg and soon passed in the hospital, said to be from internal bleeding. Worst freak accidents, part 8. Pictured here we have 35-year-old Jill Greninger of Pennsylvania. For 4 years, Jill had worked in the economy storage locker plant in Muncie, Pennsylvania. In this plant, there were meat grinders. In the earlier morning on April 22nd of 2019, Jill was working alone at the plant. At around 11 a.m. during her shift, something either gets caught or she gets pulled. Somehow she ends up being sucked into this grinder. It's said she did fall in head first, but soon after a co-worker heard a loud commotion on the other side of the factory and came running to see what was happening. And the co-worker soon notices what happened to Jill. I'm not sure if Jill's family sued or not, but OSHA did look into the company and found multiple violations, so they were fined around $50,000. Worst freak accidents, part 9. The girl who survived a plane crash only to be ran over by a fire truck. On July 6 of 2013, Flight 214 would crash at San Francisco International Airport. 307 passengers were on the plane, and of the 307, 3 would lose their lives. 16-year-old Ye Ming Huan. Sometime during the crash, it's said that she was flung around 30 feet away from the plane. The plane was on fire, which resulted in firefighters rushing in their trucks trying to douse the flames. And that's when Ye was run over. In 2014, the San Mateo coroner determined that she was still alive when she was ran over, but no charges were pressed and it was just ruled a tragic accident. Worst freak accidents, part 10. The kids who got locked inside of a chest while playing hide and seek. So pictured here we have 8-year-old Lexi and 7-year-old Sean Monroe, who lived in Massachusetts. On January 12th of 2014, Lexi and Sean were playing hide and seek. While playing, they decided to hide in a chest similar to this one. This type of chest was known as a hope chest, and the company had started recalling these chests since 1996 due to when the chest would shut, that it would automatically lock. Once inside, there was no way to unlatch from the inside. So yeah, once they were inside and the latch shut, there was no way for them out unless someone came to get them out. Downstairs watching a football game was their dad, as well as a few other family members. Their mom was not present. There were 2 TVs on at the time. The kids were found at around 8 o'clock, which is about 2 hours after they were last seen because they were present for dinner. And yeah, the COD was suffocation. Worst freak accidents, part 11. The doctor who got stuck in the elevator doors. Pictured here is 35-year-old surgical resident, Dr. Hitoshi Nikaido, who worked at Christus St. Joseph Hospital. On August 16th of 2003, Dr. Hitoshi, as well as a physician assistant, were waiting to board an elevator. Once the door opens, the physician's assistant boards, and Dr. Hitoshi goes to board, and the door is shut on his shoulders, trapping him. The PA could not find a door open button, and Dr. Hitoshi struggled to free himself, and somehow or another, buttons got pressed and the elevator started to rise. This unfortunately resulted in Dr. Hitoshi being decapitated. The rest of him was sent flying down the elevator shaft. The cause behind it all ended up being miswiring issues. His family did file a lawsuit and settled for an undisclosed amount. Worst freak accidents, part 12. The man who was cooked alive with tuna. That man was 62-year-old Jose Malena, who worked at a Bumblebee food factory in Santa Fe, California. In the early morning on October 11th of 2012, Jose would show up for his normal shift. While working, he would be asked to climb inside and clean, plus do a little bit of maintenance on one of the 35-foot-long pressure cookers. A fellow employee made the fatal mistake and thought that Jose had finished his job and went to the bathroom, so they decided to start loading the pressure cooker with 12,000 pounds of canned tuna and turn it on. Jose is trapped inside for 2 hours while this oven reaches 270 degrees. After the 2 hours, his severely burned body would be found. After this incident, Jose's family would receive $1.5 million. Bumblebee was forced to pay $6 million for safety changes as well as fines. Worst freak accidents, part 13. So here we have 56-year-old retired school employee from Mount Carmel Township, Pennsylvania, Judith Permer. On February 5th of 2017, sometime at around 2:30 in the morning, Judith would leave her house and park near this drop box and then proceed to get out and set up a little step stool. Due to her having to bring a step stool, I'm guessing she was a pretty short woman. And as she's reaching into this box, her step stool collapses and her arm gets trapped and broken as the donation door slams shut. She is then left stuck and dangling with her feet just above the grass. 6 hours later, police would respond to a woman hanging out of the drop box and show up and find the lifeless body of Judith. Her COD would be blunt force trauma from the door shutting, as well as hypothermia. There's conflicting reasons on why she was there, one being she was stealing, the other being she was donating. Worst freak accidents, part 14. So here we have the story of 32-year-old Rajesh Maru. He was at Nair Hospital with a relative who was scheduled to get an MRI. MRI stands for magnetic resonance imaging, and in case you didn't know, nothing magnetic is supposed to go in the room, such as like keys, that kind of junk. The relative Rajesh was with required an oxygen tank, so Rajesh was holding it for them. While the MRI machine was turned on, one of the attendants told Rajesh that it was okay if he came in the room with the oxygen tank. Once he was within a few feet of the machine, this is what happened. He was literally sucked into the machine. When he was sucked inside, his hand became trapped between the wall and the oxygen tank began to leak, and he was inhaling liquid oxygen, which is poisonous. Within just 15 seconds, he would swell up, turn black, and pass away. 3 of the workers would be arrested.